The Achieving a Better Life Experience Act turns 10, and a disabled woman is dropped by airport staff while on a trip home for the holidays. This and more on this episode of the Disability News Report.
This is the Disability News Report with host Arthur Aston.
Last month marked the 10th anniversary of the Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, also known as the ABLE Act. This act was signed into law as part of the Tax Increase Prevention Act of 2014, amended Section 529 of the Internal Revenue Service Code of 1986. The ABLE Act created a tax-free savings account for individuals with disabilities to pay for qualified disability-related expenses, including education, housing, transportation, training, funeral or burial expenses, basic living expenses, food, property taxes, rent or mortgage, and utilities. This law made it possible for the first time for people with disabilities to save and pay for extra costs associated with living with a disability and to enhance their financial health, independence, and quality of life. Contributions are subject to annual and cumulative limits and are treated as gifts for federal gift tax purposes. Contributions deposited into ABLE accounts do not replace benefits provided by private insurance, the Medicaid program, the Supplemental Security Income Program, or the beneficiary's employment and other sources. Since the ABLE account program first opened in 2016, ABLE account holders have saved over $2 billion in assets as of 2024. More than 187,000 people with disabilities have opened ABLE accounts with an average of over $11,600 saved and invested in each account. ABLE participants can select from a wide range of options with different savings and investment limits to help them save for their personal needs. Of these 187,000 accounts that have been opened, that only accounts for about 3% of ABLE eligible individuals. If more SSI recipients used ABLE accounts, many could avoid overpayments caused when their resources in their bank account exceed the $2,000 limit. To be eligible for an ABLE account, a person's disability must have begun before the age of 26, although an ABLE account can be opened at any age. On January 1st of next year, 2026, the ABLE Age Adjustment Act will expand eligibility to include people who have a disability that began before the age of 46. This expansion will allow another 6 million people to be able to open ABLE accounts. Some people may need assistance to open and manage their accounts and to reach their financial goals. The IRS provides a prioritized list of who may open an ABLE account on behalf of an eligible individual, starting with someone they select, followed by legal representatives, family members, and representative payees. An account opened by a representative payee appointed by the Social Security Administration. It was announced that beginning this year in 2025, $19,000 can be deposited into an ABLE account each year. In addition, an ABLE account owner who resides in the continental United States and whose work does not participate in an employer-sponsored retirement plan within that calendar year may contribute up to an additional $15,560 from their earnings into an ABLE account. It is higher for residents in Alaska who are able to contribute an additional $18,810, and residents of Hawaii are able to contribute an additional $17,310. Up to $100,000 in savings within the ABLE account is disregarded as a resource and will not affect supplemental security income. Our next story comes from People magazine. A woman with muscular dystrophy says she was dropped during a traumatic experience flying home for the holidays. Nyla Morton is actually someone who I met in person on a recent trip to Washington, D.C. Nyla has muscular dystrophy and is a wheelchair user. In this article by People magazine, Nyla details her traumatic experience that she had when traveling from Washington, D.C. to North Carolina to visit family during the Thanksgiving holiday. Upon her arrival in North Carolina during the deplaning process, airline employees dropped Nyla as they attempted to transfer her from the airline seat to an aisle chair. This fall resulted in Nyla hitting hard on her left side and her tailbone. This resulted in her experiencing pain for the remainder of her trip home during the Thanksgiving holiday. On her return trip to Washington, D.C., Nyla noticed that her wheelchair had been damaged. The headrest was bent, and the joystick cover was missing. Nyla went on in the article to explain that the airport employee who assisted her with her luggage left her outside in the cold by herself to await for her Uber. She explained that this whole experience left her feeling worthless. She shared this experience on her TikTok account, and the video has gained over 150,000 views and over 4,000 comments. By sharing this experience, Nyla hopes to bring awareness about how ableism still exists. She says, "I hope people can understand what ableism is. Something I believe many able-bodied people fail to understand is that combating ableism requires more than avoiding ableist slurs or befriending a disabled person you find cool. True allyship involves dismantling the systemic barriers that perpetuate discrimination and exclusion for disabled people." Stories like Nyla's are not uncommon. Airports are responsible for damaging thousands of wheelchairs and other mobility devices every year. In 2023, over 11,000 wheelchairs and scooters were damaged by airlines. The Department of Transportation, under Secretary Buttigieg, has taken steps to hold airlines more accountable for the damages that they cause to mobility devices and people with disabilities. In 2024, the Department of Transportation placed a $50 million penalty against American Airlines for numerous serious violations of laws protecting airline passengers with disabilities. The disabled community needs to continue to share their stories of their travel experiences. According to a recent report on research conducted by the Open Doors organization, 25.6 million travelers with disabilities took a combined 77 million trips between 2022 and 2024. And they spent nearly $50 billion on travel in 2024. Our next story is, as the LA wildfires have shown, people with disabilities often have to fend for themselves. A recent top story in the news has been the devastation caused by the wildfires in Southern California. At the time of this recording, over 23,000 acres have been burned, and over 12,000 homes and structures have been destroyed due to these fires. A topic not often discussed in the wildfire conversation and other conversations about natural disasters is the impact that these events have on the disabled communities in the affected areas. Altadena is one of the communities most impacted by the wildfires in California. In 2023, it was reported that Altadena had 4,488 disabled residents. That is 11% of their population, and 66% of their population was over the age of 65 at that time. Most people are not familiar with emergency procedures that are in place for those with disabilities when you're in a multi-level building like a hotel, an apartment building, or a mall, a workplace, or any other public space. According to the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, the mortality rate for disabled people during a natural disaster is 2 to 4 times higher than that of the general population. At the time of this recording, there were 27 people who were confirmed dead in the wildfires. There is an ongoing failure in the United States to center the need for not leaving people with disabilities behind, says Marcy Roth, Executive Director and CEO of the disability advocacy organization, World Institute on Disability. There are specific circumstances like traffic gridlock that could have the potential to arise during catastrophic events like these fires, which prevent first responders from getting to someone in a reasonable amount of time. We will continue to update you on the wildfires in California, and we want everyone to know that our thoughts are with everyone who was impacted by these fires in California. This has been the Disability News Report.
This is the Disability News Report with host Arthur Aston.